Okay, guys, well, I guess we can get started. So nice to see some new faces here. Thanks for joining us, and I appreciate you braving COVID to further your education. So today's a Tuesday, so we're going to just begin with independent reading. We'll then turn our attention to Othello. I had asked you to read Act 1, Scene 1 and Act 1, Scene 2 yesterday, so that's what we'll discuss, as well as do a little bit of a review from yesterday. So just as a reminder, on Thursday, we're going to have our little checkup quiz on Act 1 of Othello, as well as on Aristotle's ideas about tragedy. That'll be a Canvas quiz. And then for tonight, I'll ask you to read the next scene, which is Act 1, Scene 3. That will finish out Act 1. You did. I emailed you. I think it's over there.
Thank you.
No problem. Let me see. Anything else to add? So, and if you missed the memo, tomorrow is a virtual day because it's our early dismissal. So you'll all be at home all day tomorrow, and we'll be zooming into class for our review. Okay. So, any questions for me before we start independent reading? Okay. Actually, one more thing I'll share is the book that I've been started reading over break. It's just now my independent reading book. It's called Cod. And I saw this book and I was like, cod. It's a book about cod. And I was initially very skeptical. And I was like, why would I want to read a book about cod? Why would anyone even write a book about cod? But it got really good reviews. So I gave it a chance. And I have to say, cod is actually super interesting. It takes this random thing, like a particular type of fish, and looks at how that type of fish has affected like really important moments in history. So it looks at like how it led to the European discovery of America, how it fueled the colonial expansion and the American Revolution. Now it's talking about how it influenced the rise of like 20th century like food technology and how it made like helped make certain commercial ways of storing food possible. So it's actually super interesting. If any of you are into history, when I'm done, I would encourage you to check out Cod. I'll be happy to lend it out. Yeah.
If our book is an audiobook, can I listen to it on my listens?
Yeah, I'm okay with you doing that. If you guys have audiobooks, you could listen on headphones. All right, so I'm going to get to reading Cod, and I'll let you guys get to reading too. So 15 minutes on my timer. I will check in with you when time's up. Okay, everyone on Zoom, that's 15 minutes, so you can find a place to stop. We'll resume class. Hey, anyone reading anything good? Any good finds? Guess not. Well, we can talk about Othello then. Okay. Why don't we begin with a little bit of a recap from yesterday when we talked about Act 1, Scene 1. So we'll go through these questions and then move on. First thing, who are the two characters who first appear on stage? Oh, Dave likes Freakonomics. Good, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, Freakonomics is really good. Highly recommended to all of you. But let me go back to my review questions. What are the names of the two characters who appear on stage? What are they angry about? Two guys, both with weird Italian names. All right, Karina. Mm-hmm. I couldn't hear the last part. Good. So I know you guys on Zoom can't hear. For those of you in the room, if you think you're going to be participating, you could join the Zoom. That way you could turn on your mic to share so everyone else on the Zoom can hear you. But what Karina said was Rodrigo and Iago are the two characters. They're both looking to get revenge against Othello. And Iago's reason for revenge has to do with the next question, this guy Cassio. Who's Cassio? Why is Iago not happy with him? And put it in the chat or raise your hand. Come on, I know some of you know this. We talked about this passage. Was Cassio done, or why does he dislike Cassio? Good, Cassio was given a position that Iago wanted. Exactly, he was the one who was promoted to lieutenant, even though Iago wanted that spot, deserved that spot. Iago was Othello's right-hand man, fought on the battlefields for years with him, and yet he's snubbed when this promotions comes up. And last one that leads to the ending of the scene. What does Iago tell Brabantio that makes him enraged? Why does he do this? What does he hope Brabantio will do? Probably remember Iago and Rodrigo banging on the wall of the stage, crying out to Brabantio. What did they tell him? Not getting responses, but Mike, surely you remember.
They told him that Cassio was dating Secret.
You're on the right track, but you got the wrong guy. They told him that Othello is secretly dating his daughter. Yeah. So they let slip. Hey, Brabantio, your daughter, she's not in her bedroom. She's actually out with her boyfriend. And what to make matters worse, they're getting married in secret without your knowledge. So Brabantio flips out. And what Iago is hoping that because Brabantio is this, high-ranking government official, he's going to flip out, throw Othello in jail about it, and annul their marriage. Right? And then he'll get revenge. So that's what he's hoping. So in scene 2, this idea continues. We're not going to watch another clip today, but we finally see on stage a couple of new characters. There's Othello, the namesake of the play. Again, secret general, or a general who was married Desdemona in secret. We're also going to see this guy Cassio, who Iago is so angry at, the newly appointed lieutenant who studied the military, but he hasn't actually served. Okay, so let's look at a few passages here. I'm also just kind of curious to hear your impressions of what it was like to actually read Shakespeare. I know it's been about a year since you did Romeo and Juliet, so it's been a while since you read something like this. How was it? Do you feel like you kind of got the gist of it? Did you understand about half of it, more than that? Any thoughts? Yeah. Okay. We have no thoughts. That's all right. Okay. Well, here's what I'd like to do then. I want to circle back to yesterday when we close read one passage. Now I want to look at another passage that'll tell us a bit more about Iago's headspace at the beginning of this play. So I've posted this in Canvas. There's a file that's called Othello Act 1 Close Reading. If you have your laptops, you could open that up, or you could find it in your book if you don't feel like taking out your laptop. It's probably on the second page. It's a chunk of text, and I'll put it on the screen in a second. Around line 40, Iago's dialogue, it starts, "O sir, content you, I follow him to serve my turn upon him." So in that passage, Iago is making a distinction between two different types of servants. And Iago knows he's a lower ranking officer. He's kind of lower class, and he's noting there's this one type of servant, and then there's the other kind. So take a look at that and tell me what are the two kinds of servants he describes. Okay, so here it is. I highlighted the relevant passages. In the yellow, he's describing one type of servant. In the blue, he's describing another type. We'll just focus on this part for now. So I'll give you a minute to reread it. What's Iago talking about? What are these two types of servants? Raise your hand when you think you know. For this first part in yellow, what kind of servant is he describing? Great, Karina.
I think he's just describing somebody that wouldn't leave their master all the food and just do anything and everything themselves and just live his life for his master.
Good, someone who lives his life for the master. So he says here, just to look at it, you shall mark. So notice many a duteous and knee-crooking knave. Knave here just means like someone of a low status, a servant, someone who's duteous and knee-crooking, who always kneels before his master. That doting on his own obsequious bondage. So paying attention to his own, obsequious is just a fancy word for like being a servant, servile. So, caring a lot about following all the rules of his master, wears out his time, wears out his days, much like his master's ass for naught but provender. Like a donkey, he works only for like meager food, like animal food, and that's it. And when he's old, he's cashiered, right? He's turned in. These servants, they die old, alone, penniless. What's the point of all that, right? That seems terrible. Iago's saying, I don't want that. In contrast, in the blue, he describes the servant he wants to be. What kind is that? Great, Kate.
One that's working to make self-rich, so what they have is like happily by himself.
Good, yeah, one who kind of secretly serves his own purposes. So he's not like these guys. He wants to thrive by them, and when they have lined their coats, okay, so he will, follow the orders of his master, so the master does well, and after the masters, has gotten what they want, he'll do himself homage, he'll help himself. So he's not a humble guy, he's kind of crafty, he's thinking, I have to keep an eye out for myself because no one else is. And then at the end here, just to note his plan, he says, for when my outward action doth demonstrate the native act and figure of my heart, okay, when the things that I do outwardly demonstrate the native act of my heart, what like what's inside me, what I truly want, it's not long after that that'll wear my heart upon my sleeve for daws to peck at. This is one of these famous phrases that Shakespeare coined, wearing your heart upon your sleeve, right? This is where it comes from. So he's saying, if you act outwardly the way you feel, right? If you are kind of like down to earth and straightforward and tell people exactly what you're feeling and thinking, well, then you're going to get screwed over. You know, then your heart will be on your sleeve and daws, birds will peck at them, right? So he's saying, I'm not like that. I'm not going to be honest. I'm going to be crafty. I'm always going to, what I'm thinking is always going to be different than what I outwardly show. So we have to know with Iago, whatever he says, he's plotting something else. Okay. So let's look a little bit at what happens next in this scene. And we'll do a little bit of reading here to look at key parts. So after Brabantio is woken up, he goes to his daughter's room, realizes it's true, Desdemona's gone, so he runs out to find Othello and basically, you know, scream at him, throw him in jail, beat him up, whatever he has to do. He's furious. Okay. So something to keep in mind is Iago is always playing two sides here. Iago doesn't run up to Othello and say, hey, I'm furious with you. He's continuing to pretend that he's Othello's friend. Okay, so Othello has no idea that Iago's mad at him, and Iago wants to keep it that way. Okay, so what we'll read is in Act 1, Scene 2. This is around line 28, where it says, enter Cassio with officers and torches. So we're not going to read too far. We're going to start there, end on the next page. I need someone to read Iago, someone to read Othello, someone to read Cassio, and someone to read Brabantio. You could be either here or on Zoom. Either way is fine. These lines are relatively short. So it'd be great if I could get those 4 people. Any volunteers? All right, where are my 4 volunteers? Come on now. All right, thank you so much, Quinn. You can be Iago. Still need a couple more. It's Act 1, Scene 2, around line 30. If you can tell me the page, because I have a different book.
Oh, okay. I think it's page 19.
Page 19, great. So I got 1. I could read 1 part, but let me get at least 2 more volunteers. Mike, come on now, help me out. Oh, Mike's saying no. Oh, Olivia, thank you so much. Olivia, you can be Othello. And then, can I at least get a Brabantio? It's like 1 line. Lauren, you're giving people shifty eyes. You would seem like you would make a great Brabantio. It's literally 1 line. Is this all of Scene 2? No, we're not going to read all of Scene 2. So we're starting with, and I'll read Cassio. So we're starting with the line, those are the raised father and his friends. Act 1, Scene 2, line 28. We're going to stop on the next page, for me at least, line 62, where it says, "O thou foul thief, where hast thou stowed my daughter?" That's going to be the last thing that's read. Okay. So Lauren, you don't have to read that whole giant paragraph. Okay, I'll read Cassio. Okay, so Quinn, whenever you're ready, get started. Oh yeah, that would be good. Yeah, everyone who's reading, if you could hop on Zoom, that would be great, if you're not already. And just make sure you unmute your mic for your lines. You're all good?
Those are the raised father and his friends who were best going.
Not I. I must be found. My parts, my title, and my perfect soul shall manifest me rightly. Is it they? The servants of the Duke and my lieutenant, the goodness of the night upon you, friends. What is the news?
The Duke does greet you, General, and he requires your haste post-haste appearance, even on the instant.
What is the matter, think you?
Something from Cyprus, as I may divine. It is a business of some heat. The galleys have sent a dozen secret messengers this very night at one another's heels, and many of the councils, raised and met, are at the Duke's already. You have been hotly called for. When, being not at your lodging to be found, the Senate hath sent thee several quests to search you out.
'Tis well I am found by you. I will but spend a word here in the house and go with you.
Ancient, what makes he here?
Hey, he tonight had word away in him. If it prove lawful prize, he believes it.
I do not understand.
He's married.
To who?
Married to one captain. Will you go?
Have with you.
Here comes another troop to seek for you.
It is Barbantio. General, be advised. He comes to them.
Hala, stand there.
I don't think we had a Rodrigo. Senor, it is the Moor.
Down with him, thief.
You, Rodrigo, come, son. I am coming.
Keep up your bright swords, for the dew will rust them. Good Signor, you shall more command with years than with your weapons.
O thou foul thief, where hast thou stabbed my daughter?
Okay, perfect. We could stop there. Thank you guys so much for reading that. I mean, Shakespeare does have to be read out loud. And let's go through here to see what's happening. We have our first kind of clash between characters. So again, note Iago is pretending to be the friend of Othello. He's not saying anything mad. If you didn't see scene 1, you would assume that Iago and Othello were buddies, right? But we know he's actually planning something. Iago spots the raised father and his friends. That is to say, Brabantio, the father who's raised, his temper's raised, he's angry. And Iago says, you were best go in. You better beat it. You know, Brabantio's coming. He's gonna, he wants to kill you. Othello responds, not I must be found. My parts, my title, and my perfect soul shall manifest me rightly. What exactly does he mean by this? He's not running away, and why not? Yeah, Karina. Because he'll just be what?
That he won't get in too much trouble and he can get his way out of whatever.
Yeah, exactly. He thinks he could talk his way out of it. Basically saying, I must be found. I'm not going to run away and hide. I'm going to face Brabantio. I'm not a coward. So we can see from this, he's a brave guy. He's upstanding. He's moral. And he says, my parts, my title, and my perfect soul. Right? He's saying, my conscience is clean. Right? I have nothing to hide. I'll talk to him and I'll settle the score. So we can see that Othello he's a reasonable person. He's confident in himself. He's brave. He's striking quite a difference from Iago. So Iago thinks that Brabantio is going to come up, but turns out it's not Brabantio. It's Cassio, right? This guy he hates. But note what Iago says. He says, by Janus, I think no. He doesn't say by God, he says by Janus. Your books probably tell you this, but anyone know who Janus is? I was going to say, Kate definitely knows.
Yeah, he's the goddess, or he's the god of doorways in mythology, so he's the god of like 2 separate paths and 2 phases.
Yeah, exactly. So Janus, if you see like a statue or image of Janus, he's this god, and he's like, think of Voldemort from like Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, whereas like you have two faces, one behind the other. So he's the god of doorways. You could imagine a doorway has two entrances, two faces. This is where we get the word January, by the way, because it's a month where one year goes out, next year comes in. He's also commonly associated with traitors, though, because he's literally two-faced, right? So it makes sense that Iago would say this, because Iago is the most two-faced person in this play. But we go on. Cassio is saying there's some news about Cyprus that Othello needs to find out about. And then basically Brabantio appears and is angry. Iago draws his sword against Rodrigo. He says, "You, Rodrigo, come, sir. I am for you." "I am for you" is basically, Shakespearean speak for like, square up. I'm going to fight you. We know, seeing this, that that's all part of the plan, because Rodrigo and Iago are in cahoots with each other. But then Othello says, "Keep up your bright swords, for the dew will rust them. Good Signor, you shall more command with years than with your weapons." What does he mean by that? Sure, Karina.
I think he's saying like you don't need to get violent. We can just talk about what we want.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to fight. Put away your swords. They're going to get rusty if you keep them out, because you don't need to fight. And then he talks to Brabantio, "Command more with your years than with your weapons." Think calmly, think rationally, rely on your experience. Let's talk this out. So again, Othello is the reasonable one, the calm one. And we'll see what they decide to do is go to the Duke who's kind of like the mayor of Venice, and they're going to ask him to decide what will happen. Should he annul the marriage between Desdemona and Othello, or should Othello be allowed to be married? And that's what you'll read about in the next scene. Okay. I have to wrap up, though, so read the next scene for tomorrow. Any questions before we go?